Assalamu alaikum. My name is Sabiha Akhtar. Today our topic is sales forecasting and budgeting. What is sales forecasting? Sales forecasting is a business plan key section. It's like doing prediction for future sales. It's actually based on historical data and industrial trends. It's also related to market analysis, plan, pricing, and market distributing. Sales forecasting helps leader to make smart decisions for business. For example, without a short-term and long-term forecast, sales manager cannot assigning workloads, business area, setting goals, hiring, budgeting, prospecting, and other factors, which is very important for any business. In sales forecasting, we have two types of potential. One is market potential and second one is sales potential. What is market potential? Market potential is a quantity projection which is the estimate of entire market for specific products at a specific time. It calculates the highest flashpoint of the total sales for a product within a market. For example, the market potential for private car may be worth $3 lakhs each year in sales. On the other hand, Jeep car market potential may be 3 lakhs unit sales in each year. It is a calculation of sales volume more than sales value. After market potential, we have sales potential. Sales potential is an important portion of market potential. That is a set of competing firms can reasonably expect to achieve. Sales potential results are essential for business in condition if to enter a market or not rely on the calculated making from sales potential. It helps company to produce the product in demanding time, which reducing losses. It gives a better start to the company in terms of smart decision making. QTAS. Sales manager use market and sales information in critical decision like setting logical sales goals for different sales territories and individual salespeople. Sales goals of this type are sometimes known as QTAS. Sales and operational planning. Sales and operational planning is a decision-making process that makes certain that tactical plans in every business area are in line with the overall view of the company's business plan. It adjusts parameters based on forecasts. Sales and operational planning is an integrated business management process through which the leadership team continually achieve focus and synchronization among all functions of the organization. A good sales and operational planning process is an excellent way to improve the flow between various parts of the business. Sales and operational planning process. The ultimate goals of sales and operational planning process is to create a single plan that identifies the resources required to achieve a company's targeted goals. In sales and operational planning, there are 5 characteristic programs, and these are people. In sales, we call people who are involved in sales management. These people must support the sales and operational planning process and the plans, the results. In firm, every department must also cooperate and respect the process. Then we have process. Regular meetings are an important part of developing, and this process also includes metrics to monitor progress and provide benchmarks. Technology. Intelligence of market and other key information is fulfilled into a decision support system that generates some decision and provides reports that assist in planning. Every company must maintain sufficient technological sophistication ensure an efficient sales and operational planning process. Then we have strategy. Right technique goes beyond finance and should classify supply and inventories with demand. The strategy should make improvement and fulfill customer data exactly where the company can create value. And last, we have performance. Without measuring outcomes, firms can't know how well they're doing. Managers should execute metrics from the firm's goals, monitor progress to count the plan's effectiveness, and include feedback in subsequent sales and operational planning process. Sales forecasting and relationship to operational planning. Sales forecasting works the same as weather forecasting do. For example, weather forecasting helps us to planning our day to enjoy the holiday. In a given situation, sales forecasting provides the how far by calculating the sales amount of sales. It also gives the indication of what kind of products in demand. If sales manager have valid data about marketplace, they can get good results at the end. It also provides an assessment of both market potential and sales potential. From this part, Sister Vivian will present the another portion of the presentation. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am Vivian Anggreni, and now I will discuss about estimating consumer demand. When you are operating a business, it is important to understand the demand for your product. If you produce more product than there is demand for, then you will lose money to unsold stock. If you produce too few goods, then you will lose money from missed opportunities. Calculate the demand for goods based on your sales, publicly available data, or your own survey of consumers. Estimate consumer demand based on sales. Calculate the average monthly sale value of each item or group of items. This will give you an estimate of demand. For example, if you have average sales of book value $3,000, then you can estimate the market demand for book to be $3,000. This method is limited. However, as it only gives the demand for customer of your store, it does not give a picture of the entire market. Estimate demand based on Buying Power Index or BPI. Use a weighted combination of population, income, and retail sales expressed as a percentage of the national potential. And also we can look at the value for the specific types of product. Then you want to find the demand for and multiply in by the number of people in the demographic. Okay, the next slide. This is the estimating industry demand. It has two approaches. So how firms estimate industrial demand. The firstly, standard industrial clarification and buyer intention. So the firstly, standard industrial clarification. This is the most widely used approach to estimating industrial demand, was traditionally based on information provided in the standard industrial clarification manual. This is the have two subgroup. The first, North America industrial clarification. This is a system for categorizing firms, formally adopted beginning with the 2002 economic census and the publication of the 2002 US NAICS manual. And secondly, the North American product clarification. This is a system for categorizing customer product and service industry. The buyer intention, purchase intention. This is the second approach conduit survey of buyer intention carried out by the sales force, the in-house marketing research staff, or an outside research agency. The next slide. Forecasting approach and technique. Breakdown approach. This a way of developing forecasts based on general economic condition. In the first thing we can do is forecast general economic condition. Secondly, estimate the industry total market potential for a product category. The third, determine the share of this market the company currently holds and is likely to retain in view of competitive effort. The next, forecast sales of the product, and lastly, use the sales forecast for operational planning and budgeting forecast company sales. Okay, move to the next slide. This is a breakdown approach model. As we can see from the chart below, starting from forecast general economic condition, then estimate industry market potential, estimate company sales potential, forecast company sales potential, and forecast company sales. In this case, we can see the potential input from sales forecast composite, sales manager composite, jury of executive opinion, and market survey. If you cannot estimate sales accurately, it will experience breakdown like product error, theory, customer, time period. So, accurately forecasting your sales and building a sales plan can help you to avoid unforeseen. And lastly, build-up approach. This is include based on primary data, collection of new data for specific purpose, turn more attractive when time frame get shorter. Or this is the build-up approach is based on primary research, which is new data collected for the specific purpose at hand, in this case, a specific forecast for a specific company. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Vivian, for your nice contribution. We classify the more common sales forecasting techniques as either non-quantitative or quantitative. Now I am going to present non-quantitative forecasting technique. Non-quantitative forecasting techniques, subjective forecasts based on knowledgeable people's opinions instead of being analytical derived. Non-quantitative forecasts are popular and can be a practical alternative to quantitative approaches. There are two types of non-quantitative method. One is judgment method and second one is counting method. In judgment method, we have three types of forecasting method. First one is naive forecast. Second one is jury of executive opinion method. And third one is Salesforce composite. In counting method, we have two types of forecasting method. First one is surveys of buying intention and last one is test marketing. Naive forecast in judgment method. Naive forecast is the simplest judgment method which assumes naively that the next period sales will be the same as the before period. This method gives some basic knowledge, but other judgment methods are more flawless. Jury of executive opinion. This method, based on key managers' best estimates of sales in given planning horizon. The jury of executive opinion can be done quickly and easily. Then we have Salesforce composite. This method is somewhere similar. Sales forecast method based on Salesforce estimates of sales in the planning horizon. Then we have surveys of buying intention in counting method. Surveys that ask customers about their intention to buy various products over a specific period. It's called surveys of buying intention. Here are some advantages of using surveys of buying intention. The actual product users determine the forecast. Forecasts are comparatively fast and inexpensive when only a small number of customers are surveyed. Research gives the sales forecaster a good prediction of customers' buying intentions and some of the subjective reasoning behind their answer. Then we have disadvantages of surveys of buying intention in counting method. Surveys can be expensive and time consuming. Sometimes buyer intention can be inaccurate. Sales forecasts depend on the judgment and cooperation of the product users. Surveys of buying intentions, especially for industrial products, often are subjective to multiple effects. And last, we have test marketing in counting method. Test marketing is a popular method for consumers' packaged goods products. Managers carefully select a few representative market areas in test marketing. Test marketing managers can observe the impact on sales of various combinations. Thank you everyone. From this part, Sister Ikra will describe the quantity forecasting techniques. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, I am Ikra Binte Islam and now I will continue the presentation from this and eventually take you to the conclusion part of it. Until now, my group members have already discussed about sales forecast and its relationship with operational planning. They have also mentioned some of the non-quantitative sales forecasting techniques. Now I am going to cover the following topics, which are quantitative forecasting techniques and the evaluation of forecasting approaches. I will also briefly discuss about sales budget and the preparation of sales budget. Lastly, I'm gonna cover benefits of preparing sales budget. So let's start with quantitative forecasting techniques. Quantitative forecasting technique is based on mathematical models. The technique uses objective sets of historical data to predict sales in future. The method is more focused on the numbers to give the most accurate prediction. As we can see from the chart, the quantitative method is further divided into two broader categories. They are time series techniques and causal methods. Time series techniques includes moving average, exponential smoothing, and ARIMA. On the other hand, causal method includes correlation regression, econometric model, and input-output model. I will discuss each of these techniques accordingly. So, for using time series techniques, sales forecasters must look at the following factors, and they are trends, periodic movements, cyclical movements, and erratic movements. In a time series, the trend is upward or downward movement which occurs as a result of business developments in population, technology, or capital information. The periodic movements refers to seasonal variation where consistent pattern of sales changes. For example, the demand for snowboarding products. And the next one, the cyclical movements, refers to irregular occurrences, can be considered a wave-like movement and it lasts longer than a year. For instance, during the recession period, demand for certain luxury goods can go down. And the last one, erratic movement, is one-time specific events, for instance, natural calamities. So all of these factors can impact sales. So coming to the next slide, uh, which is about moving average, and it's a statistical technique, and it calculates the overall data set, and it looks at the trend in a data set. And in this case, the sales volume is the data set, and it represents the historical data for a certain company. The technique is useful for forecasting short term trends, and it is more accurate for firms experiencing growth or decline. Now, moving into our next technique, which is about exponential smoothing method, and it is a rule of thumb technique that shows the weighted average sum of all past observations in a time series, and it gives comparatively heaviest weight to the most recent data and appropriate for firms with high growth. Now, if we look at the equation, it is a 3 years weighted average, and it started from 2006, and using this equation we can calculate the sales forecast for 2009. Now we will talk about the next technique, which is the ARIMA method, and ARIMA usually refers to autoregressive integrated moving average, and it is a forecasting algorithm based on the idea that the information in the past values of time series can be used to predict the future values, and we can come up with the sales forecasting using this equation. So, coming to the next slide, we will talk about the second type of quantitative forecasting technique, which is causal methods, and it can also be regarded as association method. It assumes that the variable to be forecast has a cause-effect relationship with independent variables. Next, we will talk about some of the techniques of causal methods, starting with correlation. It looks at the strength of relationship between two variables. In terms of sales, there is a predictable relationship with advertising, consumer income, or weather. One of the term that goes well with is correlation coefficient, and it measures how much two variables are related to each other. Now we can see correlation coefficient is denoted as R, and using this formula we can calculate the sales forecast for upcoming periods. Now, the next technique is regression analysis, and it is a popular forecasting model for estimating the average relationship between two independent variables and also the dependent variables. The two types of regression analysis here is simple regression and multiple regression. Simple regression deals with one independent variables. On the other hand, multiple regression deals with two or more independent variables. In this slide, we can see scatter diagram and trend analysis. Scatter diagram plots one variable against another to see whether there is any relationship between two variables or not. And for trend analysis, it is a quantitative method where dependent variable is sales and the independent variable is time. One of the causal method is also econometric model, which is developed to look at the economic condition of US, and it is a series of regression equation and ranges from 1 to 1000. And the last technique for causal method is input output model, and it shows the amount of input required for each industry for a specific output of another industry, and this kind of model is usually expensive and appropriate for industries such as metals and energy utilities. From the discussion, we can see quantitative sales forecasting technique implies mathematics and statistics, which are expensive, somewhat time consuming, and in most of the cases require expertise. Non quantitative technique, on the other hand, are also criticized for their inconsistency. However, with the availability of user friendly software, these methods are now widely used. Some of the criteria that sales manager needs to look at includes comprehensibility, accuracy, timeliness, quality or quantity information, qualified personnel, flexibility, cost or benefits. Comprehensibility. Sales managers will not rely on the methods that are harder to understand. Rather, they will trust on the methods they have at least a basic idea. Now comes the approach accuracy. A forecasting method must provide some sort of accuracy. Usually, a projection of 10% accuracy is considered acceptable by sales forecasters. In case of timeliness, sales managers usually rely on the methods that give forecasting results timely. For quality or quantity information, any forecasting method is limited by the time and quality of information available to the organization. Now, in terms of qualified personnel, sales managers hire experts or specialists to predict the demand for their products. In terms of flexibility, forecasting methods should be flexible to adapt to any kind of changes. In terms of cost and benefits approaches, the benefits should always outweigh the cost. And we have come to the second phase of our presentation, and now I will briefly discuss about sales budget. Sales budget is basically the financial outline of plan to allocate resources and selling efforts to achieve the sales forecast. Sales budget and sales forecast is interdependent that requires close coordination with other marketing activities. Sales budget are used in planning, coordinating and controlling activities of a firm. Now I will discuss about the function of the sales budget. As I discussed earlier, sales budget needs to integrate with organizations' planning, coordinating and controlling function. Budget exists in different planning horizon. It is an operational planning process expressed in financial terms. It provides guidelines for achieving organizational objectives. Sales budget needs to be closely integrated with other marketing activities. Controlling function evaluate actual results against the prediction or expectation, and the difference between them results budget variance. Now, in order to prepare a sales budget, sales managers need to go to several steps, starting from review and analyze the situation, and it ends with implement the budget and provide the periodic feedback. So the first step is review and analyze the situation. Reviewing with past budget performance helps sales managers avoid variances in the coming period. Some of the line items that includes in sales budget are salaries, direct selling expenses, commissions and bonuses, office expenses, promotional materials and advertising. So the second step is communicate sales goals and objective. All the management level must be informed about the goals and objective and encourage participation of all supervisors and managers in the budget process. The third step is identify specific market opportunities. In this regard, sales managers and salespeople should use budget resources to pursue specific market opportunities. The fourth step is develop a preliminary allocation of resources. In this case, in preparing budget resources, the allocation of resources must be effective and the resources are allocated to particular activities, customers, products and territories. And the fifth stage is prepare a budget presentation on the basis of profit contribution, and it is effective when supported by alternate budget scenarios. The sixth and the last step in budget preparation is implement the budget and the provide feedback, which is periodic, and sales managers must ensure implementation of budget, monitor budget variances and take corrective actions. Even though preparing a sales budget is a complicated task, sales managers still prepare the budget in order to benefit the organization in certain way, and they are ensuring a systematic approach to allocation of resources, develop sales managers' knowledge of profitable resource utilization, create awareness of the necessity of coordinating selling efforts with other divisions of the company, establish standards for measuring the performance of the sales organization, and obtain input from all areas of the company in the profit planning process. And that's the end of our presentation. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you.